Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Kip Geltz, the assistant to the bishop, and I want to welcome you to the second of three pre-conference meetings here for the Texas Annual Conference. TAC 23 is just around the corner. Turn the page on your calendar, and there it is, May 28th, 2023, when we will gather together at the Hilton Americas in downtown H-Town. Tonight, however, we're in this familiar Zoomiverse. Virtual pre-conference meetings have been effective these last few years. It's saved on commute time, expanded participation, made available our experts at every single meeting. I am grateful for all the preparations that's gone into this, including our stellar communications team of Shannon Martin and Troy Griffin, who put together so many videos and a massive slide deck. I also want to thank Deborah Hawbolt, who is staffing our Q&A, where you may post questions for our presenters or request the opportunity to speak for or against a resolution or proposal being discussed. Shannon Martin is staffing our chat feature, where she will post information that you may want to note. Chat is really functioning as a bulletin board tonight, where information is posted. Attendees will not be able to communicate through the chat, but can ask questions through the Q&A. Collie Enix is co-hosting this meeting with me, and she'll be able to activate your microphone when you're recognized to speak. Now, the way to get recognized is to place in Q&A your desire to speak, to ask a question of the presenter or desire to speak for or against a resolution being discussed. I will then ask you to click the raised hand icon that's on your Zoom toolbar down there, so that Collie can identify you quickly. You'll rise to the top of our participants tonight. That's the only function of the raised hand icon down there for this meeting. If you want to address the group, you'll have to you'll have to request that in our Q&A. So the raised hand icon is just to get you up there so we can unmute that microphone. So don't click it unless I ask you to do so. If you have a question, type it in Q&A. I think that's all the ground rules for this. We're ready to go. Bishop Harvey offers a welcome video to TAC 2023. You'll find her welcome statement on page 2 of the pre-conference journal, but now I invite you to watch her video.
Friends, thank you for making time tonight to be a part of this pre-conference meeting. We can't wait to be with you for Annual Conference 2023 as we revive, renew, reinvigorate, and reimagine the future of the annual conference. This meeting today is so important. You'll have all kinds of information so that you can be better prepared for annual conference, and you will know what is before us. So please listen carefully. Lots of people have prepared for this day and are still preparing for 2023. So your input, your insight, your thoughts are important. There'll be an opportunity for you to do that, and you'll get all the instructions for that. So you don't need to worry about that right now. You just need to be prepared to listen and to take it all in. I look forward to seeing all of you at Annual Conference 2023.
All right, I'm looking forward to that as well. Our registration information can be found on page 3 of the pre-conference journal. Now, one of the resources that has proved so helpful over the years is this guidebook app that puts the pre-conference journal and TAC 2023 session agenda at your fingertips while following the conference on your bigger screen. So Troy Griffin walks us through using this important tool on a video that he's prepared. We watch that now.
Hi, I'm Troy Griffin, and I'm the Associate Director of Media here at the Texas Annual Conference. This year, we'll be using the Guidebook app once again to help you keep up with all the important details and information for TAC 2023. Guidebook is an awesome tool that provides a calendar of events and links to everything you need to know about Annual Conference. In Guidebook, you'll be able to access the pre-conference journal, conference schedule, speaker bios, worship guides, reports and resolutions, hotel maps, restaurant and dining information. Well, I think you get the idea. Basically, anything and everything Texas Annual Conference 2023 can be found in Guidebook. You're probably saying to yourself, Troy, this all sounds amazing, but how do I find Guidebook? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you don't already have Guidebook, go to your device's app store and download the Guidebook app today. Or you can just scan this QR code. No, really. Go ahead and scan it right now. If you're not sure how to do this, well, you can just ask any of our youth. If you have any questions, all this information can also be found on our website. Once you have Guidebook, you can find our conference guide by searching for Texas Annual Conference 2023. So please, download and start using Guidebook today. It's your one-stop resource for all things TAC 2023. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you soon at Annual Conference.
Troy is with us tonight. If there are any questions related to Guidebook, please type those into the Q&A. He'll be able to see those. We can respond to them live, or he can respond to them by typing out an answer to you as well. If you wish to speak, you'll simply click that, put that request to the Q&A, click that raised hand icon, and Collie will then enable your microphone and you can ask your question. Michael Vaughn serves as our TAC Director of Worship, along with Nikki Gray, our Associate Director of Worship. Michael shares with us some of the upcoming worship opportunities. This worship schedule is found on page 3 of the pre-conference journal, but I invite you to watch his video now.
Hello, my name is Michael Vaughn, and I am the Director of Texas Annual Conference Worship. And I represent a team of 10 people that design and coordinate worship for all of us, as well as another 100+ volunteers and tech people who run the services at conference. This year, conference will be at the Hilton Americas and will be in the ballroom for the worship services. We begin on Sunday at 7 p.m. with the opening celebration. It's going to be led by Kathy Taylor and the Windsor Village Church family. Bishop Harvey will give the Episcopal address, and we will celebrate communion as well. On Monday at 1:30, we will have a memorial service commemorating the pastors and spouses of the Texas Annual Conference who have passed away in the last year. That traditional service will be led by a choir made up of musicians from all around the Texas Annual Conference. It'll be with orchestra, and it'll be a beautiful service. On Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. will be the retirement service. Worship leaders from the Texas Annual Conference's New Church Starts will combine to lead us in a service that is reinvigorating as we recognize those leaders who are entering into retirement. On Tuesday evening, the service of ordination will be held at First Methodist Houston. It's on Main Street. We will be celebrating the ordination and commissioning of new candidates, as well as recognizing our newly local licensed pastors. The choir and orchestra of First United Methodist will lead us in a rousing service of familiar hymns and music that is fitting of this occasion. We will also have a devotional time on Tuesday and a morning worship service on Wednesday, where the pastors from our New Church Starts will lead us. For all of the services at the Hilton, you'll be seated at tables this year, a different setup than we have used in recent times. You'll have communion at each service, sometimes serving each other at your tables. We even plan to have some of your music leaders on hand in case we just happen to need a song at any moment. Your worship planning team is working hard to get everything right so that when we are in worship, we can focus on just that, the worship. We'll see you soon at conference.
All right. I want to thank Michael. I also want to thank Ben Burnside, who's serving as our VJ tonight. He's got all these videos ready to go and all the slides ready to go to help us tell the story of TAC 2023. So thank you for the behind the scenes services to Ben Burnside. I want to say a couple of words about the offerings that are coming up at our annual conference 2023. We're going to have 3 offerings taken. At the opening celebration, we'll receive an offering that goes toward our New Faith Communities initiative. As you know, the events of the past year have created some unique opportunities for new faith communities. Sunday night, we'll have the opportunity to contribute to these exciting ventures. In fact, I want to share, yesterday I was in Jasper, Texas, where the United Methodist Church of the Pines chartered. That was their constituting Sunday yesterday, the 25th Sunday to meet, and they chartered, had 73 people join, 3 persons were baptized. There's a lot of excitement going on in the Texas Annual Conference, and so we'll get to celebrate that on Sunday night. On Monday afternoon at our memorial service, we'll have the opportunity to continue to partner with the Laos Weld Project for water, education, and leadership development. This project focuses on bringing clean water to communities deeply impacted by illnesses associated with the lack of clean water, education for children who do not all have access to public education that we take for granted here, and leadership development as we continue to equip pastoral leaders for the country of Laos that's experiencing revival in so many wonderful ways. And then on Tuesday night, we'll celebrate the ordination of clergy for the Texas Annual Conference. Bishop Harvey has a custom of taking ordinands on a trip to the Holy Land every other year. This coming January, she hopes to take those who are ordained last year and those being ordained this year with her to the land often referred to as the fifth gospel. I can tell you from experience that few things have impacted my pastoral ministry as much as my trip to the Holy Land, where I stood by the Sea of Galilee. I read the Beatitudes. I knelt at the pool of Bethsaida, could almost hear Jesus ask, "Do you want to be made well?" Walking down the Palm Sunday road with Jerusalem in sight, remembering Jesus weeping over the city. So many other moving experiences. I'm looking forward to investing in this trip for our young clergy. So this year, come to Texas Annual Conference prepared to invest in these ministries that are guaranteed to have an exponential return on their investment through kingdom impact. Now I want to move on to some of the items requiring annual conference approval at this year's session of the Texas Annual Conference. Melinda Owens, chair of our Equitable Compensation Committee, has prepared a video about a recommendation from their committee on our clergy move policy. This recommendation is found beginning on page 79 of your pre-conference journal. Watch our video now.
Hi, I am Melinda Owens, Chair of the Commission on Equitable Compensation. In the Equitable Compensation Report, the new piece is a change to the clergy move policy, so please take note. With a diminished conference budget and a review of how other conferences reimburse for clergy moves, we want to take care of clergy and we want to be good stewards of conference funds. Therefore, the Equitable Compensation Committee is recommending a change to the clergy move policy. The policy can be found in the pre-conference journal. Here are the highlights. First, clergy are no longer restricted to use moving companies we have found. In fact, they are encouraged to get competitive bids for their area on their moves. Second, the total amount that the conference will provide for a move is capped at $4,000. We still only pay for the move. We do not pay for packing. We looked at past moves and noted the average cost was approximately $4,000. We know that some moves may be more costly than that, and in those cases, the receiving church is encouraged to assist the clergy person with those costs. Please remember as well that since 2018, any money paid to clergy for moves is now taxable income. That has not changed. We think a more competitive process may actually lower the cost of a move. This item is in the pre-conference journal and we will be voting on it at annual conference. Thank you for your time and attention.
Right, I do thank Melinda for that and ask you, are there any questions related to the clergy move policy that puts a little bit more agency in the hand of those who are moving? And I think will also be more cost effective. I want to express my appreciation to this committee for their work on that. We do have one item, I don't see any questions in there, so I'm going to move on, that we do have one item that will require the action of our laity only. Lance Richards is our head teller for the Texas Annual Conference. He's not able to be with us at these meetings. He's on his own trip at the Holy Land right now. He wants you to know about a judicial council decision that allows for us, the laity of our conference, to fill 2 vacancies in our lay delegation to General Conference. It's being held next April in Charlotte. Judicial Council 1472 was released last month that allows for annual conferences to hold elections to fill any vacancies in their delegation to General Conference. The Texas Annual Conference has our full clergy delegation, but changes in the past year have created 2 vacancies in our lay delegation for General Conference. Therefore, at our lay session on Monday morning, we will elect one person to join the two persons, to join the delegation in the postponed 2020 General Conference being held in Charlotte on April 23rd through May 3rd. Persons wishing to be considered for those elections are encouraged to fill out a profile on our TAC 2023 webpage. It's www.txcumc.org/TAC 2023. We're going to go old school this year with paper ballots that include the names of those lay delegates who have submitted their expression of interest in response to a letter they received last month on March 28th and a reminder that went out today. To be elected a delegate must receive 50% plus one of the valid ballots submitted. That means if there are 400 valid ballots, at least 201 are needed to be elected. 201 votes needed to be elected. So any questions about voting for our lay delegates to General Conference? If so, you place that question in Q&A. If you prefer to ask your question orally, just type the request in Q&A. We'll recognize you. You'll click the raised hand icon. Kali will enable your microphone. You'll ask your question. All right, we move on to our 2024 budget for CF&A. Robert Besser, our conference treasurer and director of the Center for Connectional Resources, and Mark Helms, our conference controller and statistician, provide guidance and serve as our principal resource people to the Council on Finance and Administration. They provide us with a brief update tonight and introduce items requiring TAC action. Now, Robert and Mark, before you start, let me tell the folks here, these two have done incredible work. Adjusting, looking at what our finances are, looking at what our resources are, and then have created a more extensive video that's on our website, the txcumc.org/TAC 2023. You'll see a video there about the CF&A proposal, the budget, as well as the group health benefits that's going to follow this. These are incredibly informative. I had a chance to view them just yesterday again and just found them to be so informative. So you'll want to take advantage of those as well as follow along in your pre-conference journal with that. Now, with that lead in, Robert, Mark, tell us about the upcoming finances and budget.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Kip. Hey, friends. I am joined by Mark Helms, our Texas Conference Controller. You'll hear from him in just a moment. And also Don Morris. Don is a lay member at Williams Memorial United Methodist Church in Texarkana, and he is chair of the Council on Finance and Administration. I am first very grateful to you, to every district, every church, every member, for every contribution submitted to support the ongoing ministries of the Texas Annual Conference and our continued connectional work together. Friends, thank you so much for your continued faithfulness. The Texas Annual Conference is solvent, and we are grateful to you and to the previous leaders and financial commitments that have enabled us to have sufficient reserves. Our conference is financially stable and continues to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world, no matter what the future brings. For all the details, please read our full report that begins on page 88 in the pre-conference journal. Also, please notice the charts and the spreadsheets that follow. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact one of us. I'm going to turn it over to our faithful, diligent servant, Mark Helms, our controller.
Thank you, Robert. Trying to start my video, but are not able to do so. It says the host has stopped it. So I'll continue without my my face, but let's go ahead and go to slide 2. In 2022, conference receipts exceeded expenses by $1.382 million. Investment returns resulted in losses totaling $2.371 million. The net effect was a decline in conference operating reserves in the amount of $989,000 during the year. We ended fiscal year 2022 with operating reserves totaling $10.1 million. Total apportionment receipts totaled $15.4 million in 2022. We received 90.4% of the budget for 2022. The 2022 receipts represented an increase of 16.69 percentage points over 2021. In 2021, we received 73.7% of the budget target. Much of the higher receipts in 2022 was a result of the disaffiliated churches required to pay both their 2021 and 2022 apportionments. As of January 1st, 2023, there are 300 churches remaining in the Texas Annual Conference. Of those, 230, or roughly 77% of the United Methodist churches in the conference paid 100% of their general church, jurisdictional, and conference apportionments in 2022. The slide you're looking at now is a visual representation of our conference's fiscal assets as of the 2022 close. Total conference net assets totaled $41.1 million. The column on the left contains the asset categories that comprise our net asset position. Conference cash totaled $2.7 million. Non-restricted investments totaled $27.3 million. Non-restricted investments are not permanently restricted, but may be designated as restricted or available to use as needed for ministries and/or operating expenses. The restricted investments are permanently donor restricted and can only be used for certain types of ministries. The sum of these three asset categories, cash plus non-restricted investments plus restricted investments, equal the net asset total of $41.1 million. The column on the right also similarly demonstrates the breakdown of the conference's net assets totaling $41.1 million. However, we have carved out the assets that comprise the designated reserves and operating reserves. Once the restricted investments of $11.1 million are subtracted from the $41.1 million total of net assets, the remaining balance is $30 million, which again is the $2.7 million in cash plus $27.3 million held in non-restricted investments. Within the right-hand column, the conference's designated reserves are reflected as $19.9 million. Subtracting the designated reserves of $19.9 million from the cash and non-restricted investment position of $30 million results in a remaining balance of $10.1 million. This $10.1 million is recognized as the conference's operating reserves as of the close of 2022. As reflected in the prior slide, the conference's designated reserves totaled $19.9 million as of the 2022 close. Designated reserves are temporarily restricted funds our council has chosen to restrict for certain purposes or ministries. They include some donor restricted funds like UMCOR funds for disaster relief and funds which were temporarily restricted for a specific purpose. An example would be property proceeds reserved for campus ministries. A list of all designated reserve ministries and purposes are listed on slides 5 and 6 of this presentation. I'll now turn it back to Robert.
Friends, prior to disaffiliation, the annual conference 2023 approved budget was $9,285,854. This was approved at the May 2022 annual conference and is seen in the first column entitled Original Budget. This same slide is also seen in the pre-conference journal on page 102. Please note, this excludes general, jurisdictional, and fair share goal requests, the 9.2 million. The conference apportionment amounts of the disaffiliated churches is 4,267,692, which represents a 45.96% decrease in conference apportionment receipts. If you want to turn to page 93 in your pre-conference journal, this chart is at the top of page 93. The apportionment total of the remaining United Methodist churches is 5,018,162. Note that this is listed in column A, which is shaded in blue. This is the amount that every United Methodist congregation in the Texas Annual Conference is being apportioned for 2023. Again, that chart is also listed at the bottom portion of page 93 in the conference journal. If you look at column B, where it says annual funding, to get us across the bridge from 2022 to 2023 and beyond into 2024, we will need to use some of our designated funds and reserves. Annually, for the last nearly 25 years, since 2010, the pension reserve has been used to pay administration costs incurred in managing the pension and the group health benefits plans. In addition, the group health reserves is anticipated to cover the expected shortfall in apportionment receipts due to disaffiliation. The next column, departmental expenses, are built into the following designated reserves, both the Board of Trustees, the Episcopal Office, and the Sustentation Fund, all three. These departmental expenses are funded from the reserves annually. Now look at column C. Designated reserves totaling $282,000 have been earmarked to assist in funding ministries in 2023, but only if necessary. And then column D, disaffiliation reserves of $1,182,000 are the net receipts available as of December 31st, 2022. Now, these receipts reflect the apportionment funds paid by disaffiliating churches who paid their 2021 Texas Annual Conference apportionment amounts in 2022. So, column A, B, C, and D are the totals from a church apportionments from receipts. If all churches paid their apportionments 100%, that's column A. Column B, the annual funding from benefits and departments. Column C are the designated reserves. And column D are the disaffiliation reserves. Remember, columns B, C, and D will only be used if necessary. That gets us our spending guide for 2023. Now let's look at the proposed budget for 2024. Our 2024 proposed budget is approved for approval is $4,231,930, or it's a 15.67% decrease from the 2023 spending guide. Note, this is in column A in the shaded blue area. Column B, the annual funding. Again, since 2010, the pension reserve has been used to pay administration costs incurred in managing the pension and group health benefit plans, representing $719,356. Departmental expenses are built into the following designated reserves. Again, Board of Trustees, Episcopal Office, and the Sustentation Fund. Departmental expenses are funded from these annually reserves as well. So for 2024, we anticipate using $356,138 of these departmental reserves to get us through. But again, only if necessary. Column C, designated reserves totaling $1.4 million have been earmarked to assist in funding ministries in 2024, again, if necessary. And then column D, disaffiliation reserves of $51,051 are the receipts that are available. These receipts reflect the apportionment funds paid by disaffiliating churches for unpaid 2021 Texas Annual Conference apportionment amounts. In the pre-conference journal, these are all on pages 102 through 104, the 2024 proposed budget. Columns A plus B plus C plus D are the total from the church apportionments, from receipts, if all churches pay their apportionments 100%, annual funding from benefits and departments, column C, the designated reserves, and column D, the disaffiliation reserves. Again, columns B, C, and D will only be used if necessary. Let me summarize. The comparison of 2023 to 2024 proposed budget from 2022 is a total decrease from $12,592,826 down to $8,772,000, or a 30.34% reduction. Please view the CF&A video that Kip mentioned and the CF&A reports in the pre-conference journal, pages 88 through 108 for more information.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate all that you and Mark and Don Morris and that committee have done to address this. Are there any questions related to our budget, to the CF&A report, Deborah?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
There are a couple of questions in there.
Okay, if you'll read those.
Historically, 100% of apportionments for churches have not been received by the conference. Why are we basing a budget on 100% receipts? Robert?
Okay, Robert.
Friends, we are basing our budget based upon 100% of apportionments, expecting all of us to pull together as a conference in order to get from 2022 and the bridge of 2023 over to 2024.
Okay. Then we
And I
have,
think, in following up on that, I think oftentimes, I mean, what we have to do is, to some extent, assume faithfulness in the apportionment connection, and at the same time, be very observant of that and able to adjust spending when necessary. I think that's what we've done in the past. Correct, Robert?
That is correct.
Okay. Also, yeah, Deborah, do you have anything else here?
there is one more, so it's got several. So why are the amounts in the total column E for this year higher in the assistant to the bishop's office? There's more. Center for Leadership Formation, there's less, and Center for Connectional Resources, there's more.
The answer to that is we are correcting some items in the 2022 budget going forward in 23 and 24 as it pertains to staff. And also knowing that some of the staff persons and benefits come from designated funds that were included in the budget, but in 23 and 24 will not be a part of the budget, but instead will be a part of the designated funds.
Okay. All right. And one question comes up, is there any factoring in of additional disaffiliations that will be considered on May the 11th?
Yes, there are 20 churches that we will vote on May the 11th. And that is taken into consideration for the 2024 budget.
Okay, Deborah, any others?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. Oh,
Jeff,
here's one.
yeah.
Kimberly Carney has a question about how do we get General Conference to lower our apportionment, General Conference apportionments, given the fact that we're a different conference now? What does the conference take to to cut our own spending in the process of this? So really two questions. How do we appeal to the General Conference? And then what actions is the conference taking to actively and specifically cut spending?
Yes, and so if you'll notice in the pre-conference journal on page 106, I believe, the general church apportionments are decreased in 2024 by 45%. So those are being lowered for 2024.
Right. All right. And then what have we done? I think it's in your report of what actions are taken. You can see the comparison between 22, 23, and 24 in terms of the actions the conference is taking to specifically cut spending. I mean, one of the more significant ones, I think, in this year is going from currently 8 district superintendents, because we've left one district vacant and is being covered by another DS, but we're also going down to 5 by July 1, correct?
That is
Are
correct.
there any other significant cuts at the conference addressing that you would want to highlight, Robert?
We're looking at every area, every ministry, every staff person. And if you look back over the last 3 years, we have made considerable cuts in staffing and in areas to streamline our expenses significantly. And that is reflected in the fact that not only is our income lowered, but our expenses are as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that covers all our questions. Thank you very much, y'all, for asking those. We certainly want to address them. There were some questions that came in after I raced into our CF&A report, Robert, that I wanted to come back and address regarding the lay session voting for 2 delegates to General Conference. The way that takes place is that we will have a booklet that will be part of our guidebook. It'll be sent out as another addendum to our delegates and to our lay delegates in particular. And it will include the profiles of every one of our lay delegates who have expressed a desire to be considered for election at General Conference. Then at the lay session, you'll have a paper ballot. It will have 2 lines on it, and you will fill in 2 numbers that were assigned to the folks, or you may just put their names. I mean, it's a write-in ballot. We don't need to make it too difficult, but you'll write in their names. And if their names appear, if a name appears on 50% plus 1, they are elected. If we have 2 people whose names are on 50% plus 1, then they're both elected. If you only have 1, then that person's elected. Then you vote again for the next lay delegate, and you would have 1 spot to vote for. And we would do that until that person gets 50% plus 1. So I think that's clear, but I want to check. I'm going to go into my Q&A in case there's any further questions about that. Okay. The question was asked about new church start members, if they're eligible for General Conference. They are if they meet the criteria in the discipline, which really talks about your involvement in the as a as a United Methodist. So you'll have to have been an active member of the United Methodist Church for so many years. But yes, members of our new congregations are eligible for that, for those elections. So, okay. You'd want to submit that. Actually, May 1st is our deadline for submission. So it's next Monday. So you'll want to get that in very quickly. So, all right. I think that covers our Q&A, and we're ready to move on to our group health benefits. They have 4 recommendations for us at annual conference, and Mark and Robert not only serve in the capacities they were introduced at, but Robert's also our conference benefits officer, and Mark is our conference controller. They've been a huge resource to the Group Health Benefits Committee, chaired by Sean Duffin. They've also had a chance to look at and compare other options for us related to group health, and they're going to address those briefly tonight. But again, I want to call your attention to the video that rests on our TAC 2023 website. You're going to find incredible information there that walks you through some of the recommendations that are being offered here at the TAC 2023. So, Robert?
Thank you, Kip. In addition to Mark Ellams, Kip, Sean Duffin, the pastor at Bel Air United Methodist Church, is the chair of our Group Health Benefits Committee. Friends, since our last summer's annual conference, the Group Health Benefits Committee, in consultation with the Board of Pensions, our health benefits consultant, the Alira Group, Ryan Johnson and his entire team, and the TAC benefits staff, all of us together have completed an extensive analysis of our group health benefits plan for our clergy, for our conference lay employees, and for their families. The Group Health Benefits Committee has made the following 4 recommendations for change to our group health benefits plan. Each recommendation requires a vote. For full details regarding all of these recommendations, please refer to the Group Health Benefit Report in your pre-conference journal, beginning on page 143, and it goes through 172. The 4 recommendations of change are: number 1, marriage and family counseling benefit. The second, a hearing aid benefit. Third, ensuring a sustainable group health plan for the future. And 4th, eligible active group health participant settlement payout in lieu of the TAC retiree medical subsidy benefit. Disaffiliation in 2022 has resulted in a decline in the number of covered participants as of January 1st, 2023. Plan participation has declined from 524 clergy and lay employees to 317 actives. Now, this does not include the dependents, the covered dependents. The reduction in the plan population will reduce plan receipts and expenses. However, expenses are expected to continue to outpace the receipts in 2023 and in 2024. And so this is unsustainable. Operating deficits are projected to be $800,000 in 2023, $1.5 million in 2024, and $1.5 million in 2025. In the last few years, in each of the pre-conference journal reports and in each of our presentations before you at annual conference, it's been shared that our current model for health insurance for our clergy and their families is not sustainable. It's been reported that eventually we will need to look at other options. We have done that this year. Based on careful analysis and based upon the study of proposals from third-party insurers, the Group Health Benefits Committee recommends continuing to operate the group health plan through the existing self-insured model. To eliminate the health benefits operating deficit, there is a Texas two-step plan. Step 1, increase receipts. Step 2, decrease expenses. Clergy and lay employee paid premiums will increase in 2024, followed by an increase in the church billing rate in 2025. Historically, we have been heavily subsidized our coverage of dependents by charging far less for dependent coverage than the actual cost. So, beginning January 1st, 2024, clergy billing rates will be adjusted so that a greater portion of actual expenses for dependents will be covered. In addition, direct billing rates for laity, early retiree, surviving spouse, dependents of Medicare eligible participants, and long-term disabled will be adjusted upwards accordingly. Then, beginning in 2025, January 1st, the church billing rate will increase from 12.5% to 14.5%. These rate adjustments are expected to recover the projected operating deficits for the years 2024 and 2025. Going forward, clergy and lay participant paid premiums and the church billing rates will be reviewed annually to ensure plan receipts remain on par with the plan disbursements. However, the multi-year decline in group health benefit reserves, with that, it's no longer feasible for the reserves to be a major component of plan funding in future years. So going forward, actual cost must be covered by actual receipts. Hence, step 1, increase receipts. Step 2, decrease expenses. I'm going to turn it over to Mark Helms now.
Thanks, Robert. The goal by the close of 2025 is to no longer be dependent on the use of plan reserves and investment returns to close the operating deficits that have been common in this plan. As you can see in the chart, operating deficits for 23, 24, and 25 are projected to be 1.4 million in 23, $500,000 in 24, and then recover to break even in 2025. As Robert mentioned, the second step of the plan is to address the expense components of the operating deficits. The Group Health Benefits Committee has directed the Center for Connectional Resources Benefits staff, in conjunction with our benefits consultants, the Alera Group, to research and present proposals for alternatives to Boone Chapman, the current conference group health benefit plan third-party plan administrator. A change in the TPA is being sought to provide a higher level of customer service, claims processing, and administrative efficiencies to active group health plan participants, as well as to evaluate other healthcare options with the goal of providing both improved health outcomes for participants, as well as long-term improvement of increasing healthcare costs. Now, moving on, let's turn our attention now to the retiree medical plan and the final recommendation. The retiree medical plan is expected to remain in a surplus position for the period 23 through 25. As you can see in the chart, the surplus is expected to grow from 7.7 million at the end of 2022 to 9.9 million by the close of 2025. Our annual investment returns within this plan are expected to provide sufficient resources to meet the annual funding of our retiree HRA accounts over the foreseeable future. The Group Health Benefits Committee is recommending a settlement plan whereby active clergy and spouses currently eligible for the TAC retiree medical subsidy would receive a lump sum payment in lieu of receiving the TAC retiree medical subsidy at retirement. The settlement payment would be made to eligible individuals as of January 1, 2024. There are presently 56 active clergy and 38 spouse dependents in the active TAC group health benefit plan who would be eligible for the retiree medical upon entering retirement. This is the active population that would receive the lump sum payment in lieu of receiving the annual subsidy in retirement. Each eligible individual will receive a payment of $24,000. The lump sum payment will be reduced by service percentages for those whose first appointment was on or after July 1st, 2005. The retiree medical reserve will be the source of funds used to make the payments effective January 1, 2024. All TAC retirees, spouses, and surviving spouses presently receiving the TAC retiree medical subsidy through VIA benefits would continue to receive their retiree medical subsidy and would not be eligible for or affected by the settlement payout to eligible active clergy and spouses. Once the lump sum distributions are made to the eligible actives and eligible spouse dependents, the retiree medical benefit, i.e. the contribution to the HRA account, would be closed to new participants. The payment to be made to eligible individuals during the first quarter of 2024. The settlement will shorten the duration of the retiree medical liability, which was $14.1 million as of the January 1st, 2023 actuarial measurement date. The one-time payment made to 94 eligible individuals is expected to settle between $2 million and $2.5 million of the plan obligation, which again was right around $14 million right now. We ask that you please review the full video of the group health benefits report, as well as the pre-conference journal, which is contained in pages 143 to 172. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Robert, for your hard work on this. And Sean, I know this is a working committee, this committee on group health benefits. Y'all have had a lot to do. I've even stumbled into one of those meetings myself and saw all the work that's been done on that. And just want to say a huge thank you to the whole group for the deep dive into how to address solvency and our group health benefits without sacrificing or compromising any quality. So thank you for that. I want to see if there are any questions related to the group health benefits presentation. Robert and Mark, there was a question about what is it going to cost the conference to add this hearing aids benefit?
Yeah, I'll take that, Robert. I don't think I don't have a hard number, but the expense or the claims costs are going to be minimal. We don't have that many claims right now. Right now, it's handled as a supplemental benefit. All we're changing is bringing it into the plan where all participants would now be eligible for it, including dependents. We don't anticipate a whole lot of incremental expense from this benefit.
Okay, it's something like adding a rider to your homeowner's policy that gives you extra coverage, but it's not an incredibly expensive addition, correct? I guess
Yeah, it's not going to be
talking off the cuff.
it's not going to be a sizable expense for the plan.
Right, thank you. Yeah, and Robert, there's and Mark, this is actually probably for you as well. I got two questions going on here. One is has to do with who's eligible for the retirement benefit, the health benefit for retirees. Wasn't there cutoff date at one point. We were sunsetting this already, correct?
Yes, several years ago, we essentially put a soft freeze on the plan where anyone who was not yet age 55 as of January 1, 2017 would not receive this benefit in retirement. So it has already put a soft ceiling that was enacted several years ago.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And the 24,000, how does that compare to the present value of future subsidy payments? Does that kind of have a benchmark that says this is based on a retirement at 65, and the actuarials say that you'll live to 81 in 3 months, and that's how much it is if you add it all up? Is that correct?
Yeah, so what we hired an outside actuarial firm who's responsible for doing the actuarial evaluation for our plan each year. And they took on this exercise to say what it would cost if we basically paid out all of those individuals who have earned this benefit but have not yet retired. And so they looked at this pool of participants and estimated their retirement age and then how long of a life longevity they would have to calculate a dollar amount for each individual. Okay. Then they took the sum total of each of those individual calculations, and then we divided it by the number of participants, which would be 96, to come up with an equal amount. In theory, you could assign a unique value to each individual participant, but in order to keep it somewhat fair and equitable, we came up with a single dollar amount that each individual would receive.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And any other questions related to our group health benefits presentation? Deborah, I know you got.
No, I haven't. I think they've all been answered.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I want to go back to answer one question that came up regarding the lay delegation voting, because I know that this is a concern for some folks, because we're in this liminal period in many ways. And on the one hand, we've only had one of our new congregations charter, and that means we've got a number of those that are still in that in-between stage. There is a place in the discipline where new congregations that have been formed but have not yet been chartered can receive members. They can hold members on their roles, and then they move them onto a more permanent role at the time of the chartering. But the stipulation in the Book of Discipline, paragraph 36, regarding lay election has to do with your membership in the United Methodist Church. So you need to be a professing member of the United Methodist Church for at least 2 years and active in the church for at least 4 years prior to that election. So we do have those stipulations. So if it's somebody that's just come from a different denomination into the United Methodist Church, that they're not qualified to do that. It's really someone who's well versed in the United Methodist Church. But if you were part of a church that disaffiliated and now you're part of a new church community, new faith community, you are eligible for that. Also wanted to apologize on this webinar. One of our churches, one of our delegates was listed under the wrong church in the nominations report. And I can tell you that was my mistake, because I was trying to keep up with all of the new churches. And there were times, even in the cabinet room, where T-Berry and Chester got confused in my mind. So we've got that, I think, straight, and we are making corrections daily as we find them. So I appreciate you bringing these to our attention, because that's the only way we'll be able to find them. We need a lot of proofreaders on our pre-conference journal, and you can tell that with so many pages that we have. We come to that part now of the nominations, and quite frankly, I thought this was going to be a light year regarding nominations. I serve as the chair of the conference nominating committee by virtue of my position, and And I thought it was going to be a light year since we're launching our quadrennial process for nominations at this year's annual conference. So the expectation was everybody's finishing out the quadrennium. Well, I was wrong. So I prepared a video to talk about this year's nominations report, as well as introducing the quadrennial nominations that we launch here at annual conference. So I invite you to watch this video of me. Hi, friends. I'm Kip Giltz. 3 years ago, I accepted the honor of serving as assistant to the bishop, a role that includes chairing the conference committee on nominations. I was told it was only a huge deal every 4 years, so not to worry, as the outgoing A to B would work through the 2020 year, and the next big year would be 2024. I'm not saying I was intentionally deceived, but I was deceived. First of all, my amazing predecessor did not get to ride in his last rodeo, called the annual session of the Texas Annual Conference, because COVID shut down the rodeo. Well, it actually did shut down the rodeo, but it also postponed our little gathering into my tenure, and then it was a virtual annual conference. Here's what happened. We asked our officers to extend their quadrennium into a 5th year, restructured, and asked our new officers, many of whom were coming into newly organized teams, to serve then a 3-year quadrennium. Then last year, a number of conference teams were significantly impacted by the disaffiliation of churches and withdrawal of clergy, which placed the burden on the conference committee on nominations to identify leaders to complete the 1 year that is left on our current 3-year quadrennium. So what's being presented to the 2023 session of the Texas Annual Conference is a complete nominations report that includes all of the new nominees that have been vetted and invited to serve on the various teams listed. We are beginning the process to prepare for a new 4-year quadrennium, we think. Our conference rules and structures have a clear process that begins with listing all of the teams, boards, agencies, committees, commissions, and councils which are subject to election by the Texas Annual Conference. You'll find these listed in the Committee on Nominations report in your pre-conference journal. I encourage you to talk with the center directors, chairpersons, members of those teams about the commitment, scope of work, goals, and objectives of their teams. I then encourage you to fill out the biographical profile noting your preferences in serving as a leader in your conference. Be sure to tell members of your church about this process. Invite them to submit their profile with preferences for involvement. The next few months will be crucial months for our conference as you prayerfully discern where God is leading you and the conference committee on nominations, as we prayerfully seek to identify the best leaders to guide us in the next 4-year quadrennium. At least we think it's going to be 4 years. Of course it is. It's a quadrennium. Anyway, look at the opportunities, ask folks familiar with the work, fill out the profile that is on our website. God's peace, friends. And thank you for all the support you've shown me and to one another in these last 3 years. It has been quite a ride, but I've never lacked the sense of God's presence and appreciation for the community that is the Texas Annual Conference. I am truly appreciative of you and of all the work that you do. That is so true each and every day. Continue to be inspired by who you are and what you do, and by being part of the United Methodist Church. I love this church. I love this conference. Grateful to be part of it. If there's any questions related to the Conference Committee on Nominations, you'll want to put that in the Q&A. I will encourage you, page 32 of your pre-conference journal has that report, and it really does kind of launch that whole process that introduces a lot of the kind of job descriptions for these committees. And I would ask you to be a part of this by becoming familiar with the whole process, talking to people that are on the committees now, these teams, these the boards, agencies, commissions, and be an active part of this. We would love to expand our leadership base in this conference. So thank you so much. for that. We come to our resolutions now. We have 2 resolutions and 1 proposal that come to us at TAC 2023. The first resolution is found on pages 28 and 29 of the pre-conference journal, and Nathan Lonsdale Bledsoe introduces this via video. I encourage you to watch it.
Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Lonsdale Bledsoe. I'm a pastor at St. Stephen's United Methodist in Houston, and I'm talking to you today about a resolution called In Support of Creating a U.S. Regional Conference. I hope you'll read the resolution in the pre-conference journal. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about what it means and why I think it's such a good idea for us as a conference to affirm this resolution. We have been through a lot as a church these last few years with the pandemic, with disaffiliations, with everything going on. But I've taken some heart in Paul's words that God can work all things for the good of those who love God. And one of the things that I hope is that we can take this opportunity with all of the change going on to do some serious looking at the structure of our beloved United Methodist Church and come up with a structure that is more equitable and accessible to people, and also takes ministry and puts it where it should be in its particular cultural context where the big conversations and discussions should happen. Pretty broad support for a document called the Christmas Covenant has emerged in our United Methodist Church, which is a document that supports the regionalization of a lot of our polity, both creating a regional conference for the U.S. and changing our central conferences in other parts of the world to regional conferences, to give each and every United Methodist the ability to affect meaningful change within the context in which they actually follow Jesus, right? What life looks like for me or you here in Texas looks very different than what life looks like for folks in Africa, in the Philippines, in Europe, and all kinds of different places. And doing what we can to create a more just and equitable way for the church to have the conversations about what needs to change to address the culture and what is evergreen is really important. This is not something that will destroy any of our doctrines of faith or anything like that. On the contrary, it allows us to live into those that much more deeply by having our conversations about what needs to be done at the regional level. This resolution is actually a request for us to support that we, as the people of the Texas Annual Conference, support a more regional way of doing polity, to give to our delegates and to give to the General Conference as evidence that this idea, birthed out of our global church in places besides the U.S., has widespread support in Texas and indeed across the country as things that would be good for the United Methodist Church to live into its most vibrant future of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. I urge you to vote for this resolution and look forward to seeing you all at conference.
The conference leadership team has the responsibility to review all resolutions that are submitted and then to vote concurrence or non-concurrence or endorsement of this policy. They also have the responsibility of opting to or not to recruit or invite a predetermined speaker against a resolution. The CLT did not select that, did not opt for that. However, if you'd like to offer yourself as a potential predetermined speaker against this resolution and be identified by the CLT as such, please email me at kgilts, KGILTS, at txcumc.org. I'll be glad to consult with the conference leadership team about that. The CLT did vote non-concurrence 9-5 on this particular resolution and issues the following statement. We do concur with the spirit in which this resolution is submitted, but recognize that much of this work is already being addressed by the authors of the Christmas Covenant, the Connectional Table, the Committee on Central Conference Matters, who are all working together. The CLT members then believe our focus at this session of the Texas Annual Conference is to live into our new reality as a conference community and do steady work of prayerful conversation and discernment in relation to our global connection. Our second resolution then to consider is found on page 30 of the pre-conference journal. And Sean Duffin introduces this, being presented to us by the leaders of That We May Be One. And we'll watch his video now.
Hi friends, my name is Sean Duffin. I'm an elder here in the Texas Annual Conference, and I currently serve as the senior pastor at Bel Air United Methodist Church. It's my privilege, along with several other colleagues, to present for your consideration a resolution for our new life together in the Texas Annual Conference. You can find the full text of this resolution in your pre-conference journal. We offer this resolution with two broad hopes. First, that we as an annual conference will commit to leaving behind patterns of behavior that are not conducive to a faithful, hopeful life together. And second, that we will all take care to build and nurture a conference culture marked by compassion, courage, and companionship. We're all well aware that we've come through a challenging season, saying goodbye to disaffiliating churches, churches that include lifelong friends and colleagues. It's been a season of conflict, division, and competition. More broadly, though, I think we can truthfully say that conflict, division, and competition have permeated many aspects of our conference culture and life together for decades. Whether we like it or not, we've been formed to see our common life through these lenses of conflict, division, and competition. This, however, can be a new season. Our resolution calls on each of us, and all of us together, to leave behind a culture of conflict, division, and competition, knowing that if we don't intentionally choose to do so, our formation will win, and we may easily slip back into old patterns that do not serve us well, creating conflict, division, and competition where there need not be any. Our resolution is much more than just a call to get along. It's an opportunity to commit to building a new way of life together, one that prioritizes companionship over conflict. Companionship, broken down, means something like together with bread. Companions don't always agree. They don't always see eye to eye or want the same things, but they do sit together at the same table. They do nurture one another with their presence. They do trust that God is made known in the breaking of the bread. We believe there is value in walking alongside one another, hearing and learning from one another, respecting and encouraging one another. Committing to creating a culture of companionship here in the Texas Annual Conference means walking forward together, trusting that there are great things to come for both our annual conference and for the United Methodist Church. It means embracing and encouraging one another in this season of transformation and reimagination. It means building bridges by breaking bread together. Thank you for your consideration of this resolution for our new life together in the Texas Annual Conference. Let us be companions at the table of our Lord, together with the bread of heaven, joining God in the work of making all things new.
The conference leadership team has looked at this resolution, considered it. We, again, did not opt to select a predetermined speaker to speak against this resolution. The CLT did vote concurrence and issues the following statement. The conference leadership team reviewed this resolution submitted by the leaders of That We May Be One and voted unanimous concurrence with the resolution, 18-0. The CLT expressed appreciation for the authors of this resolution, collaboratively capturing the Wesleyan spirit that underscores who we aspire to be. I want to thank the presenters of both these resolutions for submitting it. In addition to that, we had 3 other resolutions that were submitted and then withdrawn in favor of living into a new way. We have an hour and a half, 90 minutes on Tuesday afternoon set aside for consideration of resolutions. The plan from the conference leadership team is to use that time to begin to have conversations around the table that will help to shape us as an annual conference about what does it look like for everyone to have a place around the table, everyone to have a voice around that table, and every voice to be respected. We're going to have those kind of conversations on Tuesday afternoon as we gather around the tables with one another. I think it's going to be a refreshing time. That will be used, presented at our worship service that night, but also will be given to the CLT to help shape our work in the coming years. So again, appreciation for that. We do have one proposal. The proposal that we have to consider is found in the addendum to the pre-conference journal that was emailed out last Thursday afternoon after our conference leadership team meeting. It comes to us from the CLT, and Cindy Dorn, a member of the conference leadership team, presents this proposal via video.
I'm Cindy Dorn, a pastor in the Texas Annual Conference and the district leadership team chair for the East District. We've seen a lot of changes in the last few years, more in the last few months. We know that we lost churches from the Texas Annual Conference through the process of disaffiliation. Even though I believe our stronger churches stayed, and even though those that left are still doing church, just in a different way, this has been painful. As we move through the grief of these losses, we realize that the loss is in both people and financial support. I know firsthand how important district offices and DAAs are, and can guess that others feel that too. As we seek to be good stewards of the resources we have, we know that there has to be some changes, including a reduction of districts. The conference leadership team, which is comprised of our bishop, other clergy, and laity, we have prayed and wrestled with what the next faithful step should be. We believe that reducing from 9 districts to 5 districts is that step. In our new reality, and with the current appointments of district superintendents that are effective July 1st of this year, the number of churches and pastors for which a DS provides leadership is typically less than their 2022 responsibilities. However, the miles will be greater in most instances. District superintendents are already on board and thinking of less centralized ways of doing essential business and vital ministries in the districts through our faithful congregations. They are already reimagining how to best serve and more ways to work effectively with every clergy person and the members of their congregation in their respective districts. The strategic mapping team brought us their report in 2019, and as an annual conference, we felt they had more work to do on what our churches need. A revised plan passed in 2020, and we have been working to implement this new structure since then. We know that the connectional system of the United Methodist Church makes us stronger. We know that when we are faithful to the work of God, God multiplies what we have. We know that by communicating and working together, we can find a way. We also know that we are at a crossroad. That is why we are presenting the proposal to move from 9 to 5 districts. Of course, this will change some of what we have done and how we will do things in the future. We are committed to making sure no church feels left behind in this move. We are committed to connecting, collaborating, and communicating as we find these next faithful steps that will enable us to do what we do best: make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. As we build within the denomination by rebuilding and growing spiritually, financially, and in size. Scripture tells us to conduct ourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. With the Holy Spirit guiding us, I know we will accomplish that. I'm asking you to support not just the proposal of redistricting, but join us in the work on meeting needs and being faithful in this time together. And I ask you to remember these words of John Wesley: the best part of all is God is with us. Are we going to have to revisit this? Absolutely, because we are going to grow beyond where we are now. But for now, vote yes.
One of the privileges I've had as the assistant to the bishop is working with this conference leadership team and so many amazing leaders in the district leadership team chairpersons and our at-large members, along with our district superintendents. Friends, it is a different day. We know that. We're already looking at 5 district superintendents serving in these areas. We're already looking at creative ways of managing the miles. The number of churches you heard, the number of churches, the number of pastors, those are not that different from the pre-disfiliation timeframe. So we believe that's manageable. It's just being creative and intentional about managing those miles. And so we will have that conversation. It's going to be introduced on Monday at annual conference, and then we'll do a complete deliberation and vote on it on Wednesday morning is our plan. Any questions about the proposal from the conference leadership team? I do then want to talk a little bit about a May 11th special session. The Texas Annual Conference, more than most annual conferences in the United States, has felt the deep grief that the disfiliation of local churches has prompted. For the last 3 years, every session of the Texas Annual Conference has included a vote on churches who have fulfilled the principles regarding local church disaffiliations set forth by our Board of Trustees and approved by our annual conference, and have requested to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church. This year, we will not avoid the sting, but we have determined to separate that somber decision from the more hope-filled and forward-looking in-person session of the Texas Annual Conference. To that end, Bishop Harvey has called a special session of the annual conference to be held virtually on May 11th at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where we will consider the recommendation of our Conference Board of Trustees regarding local churches who have requested to disaffiliate from the Texas Annual Conference and fulfilled the requirements established in the principles. So I ask that you please plan to be at your computer for this important but brief special session of the Texas Annual Conference. You'll need to register for this event in addition to our in-person event to be held at the Hilton Americas. All the information for that is available on our TAC 2023 webpage that you can find on our website, txeumc.org. I encourage you to do that. Now, I will say we're going to vote on this by a Zoom poll. And so in order to do that, you're going to have to be a registered delegate, an elected delegate to the Texas Annual Conference. That's either happens by virtue of your clergy status, or you're a lay delegate from your local church, or an at-large delegate elected by your district leadership team. Alternate delegates will not be allowed to participate in this session unless they're replacing a standing delegate, and that will need to be communicated by the pastor to our registrar, to Kala Enochs. So you'll want to make sure you take care of that. But I do believe this will be a relatively short but important session, and invite you to participate in it. I believe that's all the presentations we have tonight. I don't see any open questions in our Q&A, so I'm going to move us toward closure. Friends, all of these things that we've looked at are serious concerns that we've discussed, and we'll discuss them more at our in-person session of the Texas Annual Conference. This does give us a chance to do a little deeper dive in a more relaxed setting, just for the action items in particular that we've looked at. I would invite you to certainly go to the webpage and look at all the resources that are there. Make sure you look through your pre-conference journal, download your guidebook on your phone, and be ready to go with that. Watch the videos that have been prepared for the group health benefits, and also for the CFNA, the Council on Finance and Administration. If you want to watch the videos again regarding the resolutions, those will be available. All of these are opportunities for us to do a deeper dive and act with diligence in our Texas Annual Conference session 2023. I do want to thank all of you for your attention, for your graciousness, for your participation in this important meeting. I mean, I've been watching the participant count. It stayed pretty steady. Y'all have been with us for the full hour and a half here that we've been on air, and I thank you for that. I thank you for all the grace that you've shown me over the 3 years that I've served as assistant to the bishop in this world that none of us imagined 3 years ago. So if We don't have we do have a question on here. Let me answer this before I issue our benediction for the night. The list of churches seeking disaffiliations on May 11th, there's 20 churches. That will be sent out on May 8th. On May 8th. The reason for that is that's the last day these churches have to fulfill the requirements. Now, if Robert and the Office of Connectional Resources lets us know that everyone has fulfilled all of this before then, we'll distribute it earlier. But it will look a lot like the special session pre-conference journal that we distributed on in December, or just in November, actually, for the December 3rd. It will have the motion from the Board of Trustees, the principals, and it'll have the tables that we've provided before of the churches that are leaving. In addition to that, we will have the ballots and resolutions from those churches included in that pre-conference journal. So all that is scheduled to go out on May 8th. Thank you again, friends, for your participation tonight. As you go from this place, I want to offer you the benediction I seek to offer every time I gather to worship, and I have that opportunity. And that is just a reminder to you and to me that when you leave this place, when you leave this Zoom webinar, you don't leave here alone. God goes with you. God goes before you to show you the way, behind you to encourage you, beside you to befriend you, above you to watch over you, and within you always to give you peace. Amen. Go in peace, friends.